Hey, hi, how you doing? This is...
The ever-brilliant Gold Mask.
Ryan, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. Now rise, ye tarnished, and let's talk about Elden Ring. Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring. Talk about one hell of a one-of-a-kind video game experience. Although it is not without its flaws, which I addressed and talked about in my previous Elden Ring video, the actual problems with Elden Ring, I would recommend that you watch that prequel video if you want the entirety of my thoughts, feelings, opinions, and perspectives on Elden Ring. Because in this video, we're not going to be talking about the flaws, problems, and missteps with the game. In this video, I am going to unabashedly gush and praise everything I adore about this game. So fair warning, there will be some spoilers ahead for those of you who have not played or beaten the game yet. And with all those disclaimers out of the way, let's get into it! I know I say this every fucking goddamn year, there's always at least one or two new video games that come out every year that I proclaim to be some of my new favorite video games of all time. And yeah, Elden Ring has become one of my new favorite video games of all time. But why is that? Glad you asked. I'll start off with the audio and visuals. The art design and sound design in Elden Ring is immaculate. From Software has gone above and beyond the bar that they set with their previous titles, which were also visual and audio masterpieces. Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. All of those games contained beautiful, awe-inspiring environments, lighting implementation that enhanced the atmosphere tenfold, accompanied by ambiance and music that seamlessly heightened immersion. From Software has proven time and time again with their previous titles that they are remarkably talented artists. They know how to use their level design and sound design to construct an atmosphere, a feeling, and tell a story within the minute details they weave throughout the explorable settings that they create. And Elden Ring, quite obviously, is no exception. Elden Ring is one of those video games where I will, for extended periods of time, just stop and stare and listen. Whether it's traversing through the open world or making your way through a legacy dungeon, it's impossible not to be impressed by the scale and artistry on display. Everywhere you turn, Elden Ring looks like a gorgeous painting come to life. To me personally, it almost looked and felt like, for lack of any better descriptors, like I was exploring the mind and imagination of a fantasy artist made manifest. Elden Ring just looks so damn beautiful and sounds so good that I just enjoy the act of playing Elden Ring in the sense of just existing in the world of the lands between. I don't need to be in combat or exploring or collecting resources. I am just so enamored by the visuals and audio that just making my way from point A to point B while sightseeing along the way was a satisfying experience for me, just via the visuals and audio alone. Oh, it's just so good. The music that accompanies each region and perfectly sets a tone and atmosphere, the blowing of the wind, the rustling of leaves and grass. Just talking about it makes me want to play Elden Ring right now. And while I'm still on the topic of visuals and audio, I gotta talk about just the rule of cool, man. These characters and creatures, these weapons and armor. Everyone and everything in this game just looks so fucking cool, and there are layers upon layers of storytelling woven into the designs of all these characters, creatures, weapons, and armor, which that by itself adds even more layers upon layers of depth, immersion, and investment into this fictional world. Oh, and then there's the music! The music, baby! Just listen to this. quality music enhances any and all pieces of art. Music by itself alone can tell a narrative. And when it comes to the music in Elden Ring, I can safely say Elden Ring is a lesser experience without the accompaniment of its soundtrack. Even if you're someone who has no interest in playing the game or can't play the game, you gotta listen to Elden Ring's soundtrack, man. This music is just absolutely extraordinarily, hauntingly beautiful. Yeah, I really like Elden Ring's music. Anyways, moving on. Another element of Elden Ring I found myself falling in love with and was not expecting to. This really surprised me. This really caught me off guard, is just how invested I became in Elden Ring's story, characters, and lore. With From Software's previous games, namely the Dark Souls trilogy, I didn't really care about the story and lore. I really only play those games and love those games for the audio-visual gameplay experience. The story, characters, and lore of the Souls trilogy, I'm pretty indifferent over. Although, admittedly, there are some narrative aspects that I am fond of, a couple characters I enjoy as well. In the end, however, I have no substantial emotional connection or endearment to the majority of narrative and characters in previous From Software titles. Elden Ring, on the other hand, I was invested immediately. From the opening cutscene, to meeting White Mask Vare, to meeting Melina and making it to the Round Table Hold, being introduced to all of these characters, progressing through their quest lines, learning more about the lands between and the history of this world. There's mystery and intrigue, backstabbing and betrayals, love and sacrifice, despair and hope. For me personally, the quest lines were some of the best, most fulfilling and rewarding content in the game. Especially Ranni the Witch's questline. Do not skip Ranni the Witch's questline. Completing Ranni's quest gives you access to what is easily the best ending in the game. There's a reason way more Elden Ring players have gotten Ranni's ending than any other ending in Elden Ring. It is absolutely worth it. This also goes without saying, but Ranni the Witch herself is an endearing character, and Elden Ring just has a plethora of intriguing, memorable characters accompanied by excellent voice acting. I would argue that with Elden Ring, From Software has drastically, immensely improved in the storytelling department. Compared to their previous titles, Elden Ring's narrative is so much more digestible, being far less obscure and far more accessible, all the while still maintaining sophistication and being layered with themes. Oh man, the way multiple character backstories and questlines intersect with one another and are connected through various logical ways. Oh, all of the politics of the various factions and their intersecting conflicts. Oh man, the world building and lore. It's so good! It's so good! And what blows my mind even more is that all of this content is completely optional. If you don't care about Elden Ring's story, you can ignore it. You can ignore most of the NPCs and characters and just go about your business, go on your way, exploring the open world, collecting items, engaging in combat, fighting boss battles. If you don't care for narrative in video games, well, Elden Ring doesn't force it upon you. If you just want to experience the open world and the combat, the game totally enables that style of play, doesn't hinder you, and you can have a perfectly enjoyable experience just exploring and fighting. But if you do talk to NPCs, progress through their quest lines, then the world around you becomes so much more enriched and grows even further in scale as you learn the context behind these people and places. I'm also a sucker for tragedy and dramatic irony, which Elden Ring's story and characters are just filled to the brim with. My god, Elden Ring can be horrifyingly dark at times. So much sacrifice, so much death, so much sadness at times. But despite it all, there is still this overwhelming sense of going on an epic journey, a grand adventure, a legendary odyssey to become Elden Lord. So yeah, I was surprised myself how invested I became in Elden Ring's story and characters. The lands between are just such a fascinating fictional world, and the people who inhabit it, just as fascinating. Well now, it's about time I talked about the gameplay, eh? I would argue that Elden Ring's greatest strength when it comes to the gameplay department is the diversity and variety of gameplay options at your disposal and the amount of unique gameplay scenarios players have to engage with. Because of all this variety and diversity, no two people will play and experience Elden Ring the same way. For example, some will prefer melee, some will prefer ranged, and depending on whether you're a ranged player or a melee player, you have a huge plethora of options to pick from in terms of how you want to do melee combat and how you want to do ranged combat. Do you want to use swords or spears? Do you want to do it one-handed, two-handed, dual-wield melee weapons? Maybe go with the classic shield in one hand and blade in the other. But if you're going ranged, perhaps, do you want to use a bow, crossbow, perhaps try some magic? If so, what kind of magic? Intelligence-based magic or faith-based magic? It's almost overwhelming, and I'm just talking about starting a new game, creating a new character. I haven't even talked about New Game Plus. Holy shit, New Game Plus in Elden Ring is a whole other experience. Starting the game from the beginning with a leveled up character with all the items, weapons, and armors you've equipped, now you have even more options to tackle Elden Ring's various scenarios in even more ways than you could before when you first started the game. Elden Ring is a sandbox game, and I love sandbox games. I love being in a game world and being given numerous tools to do whatever I feel like doing. Play the game how I want to play it. For me, it feels liberating and a lot of fun to play. But all that diversity, variety, options wouldn't mean that much if the game wasn't built on a solid mechanical foundation, and it certainly is. Since Demon Souls, From Software have been refining their third-person, hack-and-slash, stamina management, action game formula. For me personally, the game feels smooth and responsive with the right amount of weight behind your character's animations, actions, and reactions. While the movement and combat are certainly familiar to me, I've definitely played other games like this. Elden Ring's combination of its unique, massive sandbox, varied, challenging combat and platforming scenarios, and just overall satisfying gameplay loop of explore, fight, and loot created what was, for me at least, a very enjoyable and addictive experience. While I'd argue that combat is made engaging by its variety and options and diversity, I'd argue that movement and exploration is made accessible and engaging thanks to your mount, Torrent. The simple gameplay mechanics of giving Torrent a speed boost and a double jump makes exploring the open world and these various environments just so frictionless. I think I can safely say that Elden Ring would be a worse video game, a worse overall experience without Torrent. His inclusion, his mechanics just add so much to movement, traversal, and exploration. But it is a fucking crime, an absolute fucking crime, that we cannot pet him. Why will you not let us pet our horse, From Software? Torrent is a good boy and he deserves pets. Let us pet our horse, goddammit. At least we can feed him berries. So I guess that's something, I guess. Blows my fucking mind. We can cuddle with Thea, we can hold hands with Melina, but we can't pet Torrent. Unbelievable. I should have brought this up in my problems with Elden Ring video, but too little too late. So combat is solid and filled to the brim with variety and options. Exploration is fantastic with a gargantuan open world to explore, with combat challenges, platforming challenges, and tons of unique scenarios in between. The amount of content in Elden Ring is admirable and praiseworthy. Elden Ring as a product, you are absolutely getting your money's worth. But. This is a From Software game, and what are From Software games most known for? Their boss battles.
Upon my name as Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. I am the Lord of all that is golden.
And I have never known defeat.
Together we will devour the very
Now, the unique thing about Elden Ring's boss battles is that your individual experience with Elden Ring's bosses is that they're going to be almost in their entirety a completely subjective and personally contextual experience for you. You see, the difficulty of Elden Ring's numerous bosses entirely depend on your character's build and statistics. Does your personal skill matter and contribute to these boss battles? Absolutely, of course. But your experience will vary vastly depending on whether you're fighting the boss in melee, in range, whether or not you use a summon, whether you're over-leveled or under-leveled. How high or low your health, mana, and stamina are most certainly makes a difference. All of this is to say, my personal experience with Elden Ring's many bosses was a mostly positive one, but with a lot of caveats. Like, for example, this boss is a lot of fun when fighting them in melee, but don't bring a summon because it makes him too easy. Or, this boss is an absolute nightmare to fight in melee, but I found using ranged magic made him a much more enjoyable challenge. You get the idea of where I'm coming from, depending on your personal preferences and play styles. Whether or not you have a positive experience or a negative one with Elden Ring's various bosses will be an entirely personal, individual, unique experience for you. But like I said earlier, for me personally, my experience with Elden Ring's bosses were a mostly positive one. The majority of them have badass, awe-inspiring character designs, accompanied by astoundingly beautiful and epic music, various attack patterns to learn and adapt to. Some bosses in their design are more flexible than others, allowing for multiple builds and playstyles to be effective against them, while others have a bit more of a rigid, linear, scripted design to them. And some bosses heavily encourage the usage of the new summon system. I won't lie, I really enjoyed the new summon system. Collecting the spirits of all these various enemies and mini-bosses and then being able to summon them as a companion to help me out in combat and boss battles. Some of these summons can really mix up and dynamically change a boss battle in really fun ways. It adds a whole new extra layer of strategy and replayability. But back to more specifically the boss battles, I have to admit, some of these boss battles I absolutely loved and had a ton of fun fighting against. I'll go as far to say some of these bosses in Elden Ring have become some of my new favorite boss battles in all of gaming. To name a few, Godric the Grafted, Starscourge Radahn, Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy, Mog, Lord of Blood, Lich Dragon Fortisax, the Regal Ancestor Spirit. God, I fucking love the Regal Ancestor Spirit so much. Ah, man. Elden Ring is an exceptional video game, a beautiful work of art, a high-quality product, and a special experience. It may not be perfect, it's certainly got problems, it's certainly got issues, it's not a masterpiece, but it's a damn good video game, an easy Game of the Year contender, and a game that I highly recommend. And those are some of my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on Elden Ring. Anyways, that's been a video. Thank you for watching. If you did indeed like the video, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and let me know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions in the comment section down below. If you want to help out and support this video, then please share it on social media, Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook. And if you want to help out and support me directly, there are links to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description down below, or you can donate directly via a YouTube super thanks. Anyways, thank you once again for watching. This has been a video, and I'll see you guys later.